बंदी बना के घर पर ले जा रहे हैं। नहीं बैठेंगे, नहीं बैठेंगे, नहीं बैठेंगे, नहीं बैठेंगे।
देश की बेटियां कैसे सुरक्षित रहेंगी? ऐसे रेप के आरोपियों को बरी कर दिया जाएगा।
Picture this. A frail elderly woman, her sari fluttering in Delhi's winter chill, clings onto the door of a moving CRPF bus with her life. She's screaming not for help but for her daughter, the survivor of a nightmare that began 8 years ago.
नहीं बैठेंगे, नहीं बैठेंगे, गाड़ी में नहीं चढ़ेंगे, नहीं चढ़ेंगे, नहीं चढ़ेंगे, नहीं चढ़ेंगे, नहीं चढ़ेंगे।
Officers elbow her roughly. She jumps, stumbling onto the road like discarded protest fodder. This isn't just a random scuffle. It was December 23rd, 2025, and the Unnao rape survivor, now 25, her life a patchwork of scars, was inside that bus, detained again while trying to speak out. The trigger? A Delhi High Court order suspending her rapist's life sentence, handing him conditional bail on a technicality. In a country that chants Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao from every election billboard, how does a daughter's cry for justice end with her family being manhandled like this? The Unnao case, reignited this week, isn't just a legal footnote. It's a mirror to India's fractured soul. One where political power shields predators and the judiciary's fine prints let them slip free. But Unnao doesn't stand alone. It echoes in the wrestlers' revolt against BJP MP's groping shadow and Bilkis Bano's 2-decade war against riot rapists feted as heroes. Let's unraveling them, starting where the wound is the freshest. Unnao's story is a slow burn horror laced with the stench of impunity. On December 23rd, the Delhi High Court suspended former BJP MLA Kuldeep Sengar's life sentence in the rape of a minor, citing legal grounds related to sentencing provisions under the pre-2019 POCSO Act. The court imposed strict bail conditions, geographical restrictions, police reporting, surrender of passport, but for the survivor, the legal fine print mattered a little too much. For us, the decision is Kal, death for our family, she lamented.
मेरा यही कहना है सभी से, सभी लोगों से, देशवासियों से मेरा यही कहना है कि देश की बेटियां कैसे सुरक्षित रहेंगी? ऐसे रेप के आरोपियों को बरी कर दिया जाएगा।
Her fear was not abstract. The Unnao case is a grim reminder of what happens when power closes ranks. The survivor was raped in 2017 when she was just a minor. Her family alleged intimidation from the very beginning.
मैं सरकार से यही निवेदन करना चाहती हूँ कि पहले तो इन्होंने मेरे बड़े पापा को मरवाया, फिर इन्होंने मेरे पापा को मरवाया, फिर मेरी बहन के साथ कांड किया, कांड करने के बाद किया उसके साथ, फिर इन्होंने मेरे चाचा को झूठे केस में इन्होंने फंसा दिया, जेल में करवा दिया।
When her father tried to pursue the case, he was reportedly arrested in a fabricated arms case and later died in custody after being assaulted for a crime for which Sengar was separately convicted and sentenced to 10 years of imprisonment. The road to conviction was paved with tragedy. The survivors attempted self-immolation, her father's death, and later a horrific car crash in 2019 that killed 2 of her aunts and nearly took her life. Only sustained public pressure and intervention by the Supreme Court of India ensured a fair trial by transferring the cases out of Uttar Pradesh. When Sengar was finally sentenced to life imprisonment in December 2019, it was seen as a rare moment of accountability. But 5 years later, the suspension of that very sentence has revived the survivor's sense of vulnerability, especially as she alleges that security for her family and the witnesses has already been withdrawn.
2 मासूम से छोटे बच्चे हैं, मेरा पति है, मेरा परिवार है, मेरा भाई है। सबकी सोच के मुझे लगा ऐसा कि हम नहीं रहेंगे तो मेरा परिवार असुरक्षित हो जाएगा और मेरे परिवार के पास सुरक्षा भी नहीं है।
But what about justice and accountability? 8 manhandles back. Following the Delhi High Court's verdict, the survivor and her mother protest at India Gate with activist Yogita Bhayana.
हमको न्याय नहीं मिल रहा, हमको न्याय वो ले जा रहे हैं, खिटौनी ले जा रहे हैं, मेरी बच्ची को बंदी बना के घर पर ले जा रहे हैं। नहीं बैठेंगे।
CRPF detains them, videos go viral. Paramilitary block media access, shove the elderly mother, 60s, frail, from a moving bus onto Delhi's cold roads. The survivor, trapped inside, screams for her lawyer. Police deny any rough handling, just removal at 8:45 p.m. Leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi, blasts such treatment on X and meets the survivor at Sonia Gandhi's home. The survivor has also sought audiences with President Draupadi Murmu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and Union Home Minister Amit Shah, craving safety and not a public spectacle. The CBI has now moved the Supreme Court challenging the bail order, while the Survivors Council has announced an independent appeal. But the damage, emotional and symbolic, has already been done. The question here remains, did any leader from the ruling dispensation condemn this? The answer is no. Did any BJP leader question the grounds of bail and guarantee safety and security for the survivor? The answer again is a big fat no. The Unnao case is not an isolated rupture. It fits into a larger and very, very troubling pattern. In 2023, India watched as some of its most celebrated athletes, Olympic medalists and world champions sat on the streets of Delhi accusing BJP leader and the then Wrestling Federation of India chief Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh of sexual harassment. The allegations spanned years. The women described groping, stalking, intimidation and threats to their careers. Instead of swift accountability, they were met with delay after delay. FIRs were registered only after the Supreme Court intervened. Protests at Jantar Mantar were broken up. Videos showed women wrestlers being dragged and pinned down by the police. Again, reportedly in the absence of female personnel during the crackdown. When a close AD of Brij Bhushan was elected as the WFI president, the message was unmistakable. Sakshi Malik announced her retirement in tears.
और एक बात और कहना चाहूँगी कि लड़ाई लड़ी पूरे दिल से लड़ी, लेकिन अगर प्रेसिडेंट ब्रिज भूषण जैसे आदमी जैसा ही रहता है, उसका बिल्कुल सहयोगी है, उसका बिजनेस पार्टनर है, वो अगर इस फेडरेशन में रहेगा तो मैं अपनी कुश्ती को त्यागती हूँ और मैं आज के बाद कभी भी आपको वहाँ नहीं दिखूंगा।
Vinesh Fogart and Bajrang Punia returned their national awards. The accused meanwhile secured bail and continued to wield political influence. His son would later be elected to the parliament. In this instant, two Indias stood exposed. One where survivors protested on pavements and another where powerful remained insulated. Once again I ask, did any leader from the ruling dispensation condemn this? The answer is no. Did any BJP leader condemn the wrongdoings of Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh? The answer again, sadly, is a big, fat, resounding no.
हमारा गेम, हमारा परिवार सब कुछ दाव पे लगा के हम यहाँ पे आए हैं।
आपको क्या लग रहा है?
3 महीने से हम इतने मेंटल टॉर्चर से गुजर रहे हैं, सिर्फ एक इसमें कि हमें इंसाफ मिले हम खिलाड़ियों को। और ये महिला खिलाड़ियों की सम्मान की बात है। हम इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे ओलंपिक में मेडल लाती हैं हमारी लड़कियाँ, कोई ऐसे नहीं है। अगर हम ही सुरक्षित नहीं हैं इस देश में तो बाकी लड़कियों के भविष्य का या हम किसके बारे में क्या सोच सकते हैं।
If Unnao represents justice delayed and the restless case justice resisted, Bilkis Bano represents justice being undone. Bilkis Bano was ganged during the 2002 Gujarat riots while pregnant. 14 members of her family, including her 3-year-old daughter, were murdered. After years of legal struggle, 11 men were convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment, a landmark verdict held by the Bombay High Court. Yet in 2022, the Gujarat government granted remission to all 11 convicts. They walked out of the jail to garlands and celebrations. Some shared public platforms with local BJP leaders. But for Bilkis, it felt like being violated all over again. It took another intervention by the Supreme Court in 2024 to quash the remission as illegal and order the convicts back to prison. The court's words were sharp, the relief was real. But the question lingered. How did executive mercy come to be exercised so casually in a case of mass rape and murder? Asking for the third time now, did any leader from the ruling dispensation condemn this? The answer is no. Did any BJP leader slam the perpetrators being lauded and garlanded? The answer again is a big fat no. The common thread running through Unnao, the restless protest, and Bilkis Bano is not just that of sexual violence. It is institutional response, delayed, defensive, and often dismissive of a survivor's safety. All 3 cases involve accused men with political proximity to the Bharatiya Janata Party. All 3 survivors or protesters faced intimidation, whether through withdrawal of security, police action on the streets, or executive decisions that favored the convicts. This is what makes the dichotomy of 2 Indias unavoidable. There is an India where slogans like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao are invoked loudly. A BJP-led government and Prime Minister vouching for the safety and security of their matas, behens and betis. And there is another India where survivors must repeatedly prove their pain, where they are asked to be patient while their accused navigate appeals, bail and remission. Legal experts will argue, and correctly so, the suspension of a sentence and interim bail are part of criminal jurisprudence. But the law does not operate in vacuum. In cases involving extreme violence, power asymmetry and a history of intimidation, judicial discretion carries moral weight. When survivors are left fearing for their lives while convicts find procedural relief, the message that travels is far beyond courtrooms and is deeply unsettling. The Unnao survivor has said she will keep fighting, so did the wrestlers and so did Bilkis Bano. But should justice in India require this level of endurance? When survivors are forced onto the streets to demand safety, when elderly mothers are allegedly manhandled, and when convicted men repeatedly find relief, the system risks appearing less like a neutral arbiter and more like an uneven battlefield. The question confronting India is no longer whether its laws are strong enough. It is whether its institutions are willing to apply them consistently even when power is on trial. When a woman is violated, it is not a momentary crime. It is the shattering of her body, her trust, her sense of safety in a world that already asks too much of her. But when her rapist is granted bail, when power closes ranks to patronize or protect the violator, the violence is repeated in quieter and much more crueler ways. It tells her that her pain is negotiable and her trauma weighs less than the comfort of her accused. Justice then shrinks her suffering into a footnote, and in doing so makes every woman of the country feel more smaller, more exposed, more alone, and forced to live with the knowledge that the system meant to protect her can so easily step aside. And I don't, but that we refuse to step aside.